Yo, what's up, everybody? This is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. We're back with another Monday Night Men's panel. We've got a good discussion for you. Today, we're going to be talking about our children's mental health. And so we always talk about men's mental health. We last week talked about generational trauma, but there was something that was said that I think was extremely important. And I want to show you that clip right now. Last week on Elevating Men.
How do I feel that the generations that have preceded me have impacted the way I live today? Yeah, I was taught what they were taught. I know what they learned to know, and I pass it on. Let me give you a different perspective. We talk about generational traumas and generational pains. How about this? How about yesterday is dead and gone? Those generations that we could talk about and we could point to, yeah, they lived through their trauma and they passed it on. How about this? How about we are the generation that are about to pass on trauma, our trauma, not their trauma. They're dead. We now own that trauma. We now own our trauma. We now own whatever's inside of us, be it traumatic or not. So therefore, this mental health thing that we need to be studying is our mental health and our mental health of what we are passing on. History of yesterday is gone. History starts with us, meaning tomorrow's generation, which might be talking about generational trauma, might be talking about us if we don't talk about us.
I love it. I love it.
So as you see in the clip, generational trauma was brought up. Our brother AB so eloquently stated that it's really not about the past, it's about the present and the future. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about our children, how they're affected by our actions, what we can do better to make sure that they have good mental health moving forward. And so there's an image that I love to use. I've used this several times. I don't know if you've ever seen it on the show, Big Unk, but we got a young man here with all of the influences that try to pull him in the wrong direction. All of these things absolutely affect his mental health. And so to start off, I have a question for each of you that I'd like for you to answer. I'm going to start with you, Big Unk. We're talking about a 13, 14, 15-year-old boy. We talked about bar mitzvahs. We say that, at that point, they're a man and all these different things. So for the 13, 14, 15-year-old boy in our community, are they responsible for their actions?
Unfortunately, they're not. Society has pushed it to where the parent is still responsible. If that young man brings a gun to school, they're going after the parents. If that young man attacks a female at school, or the parent is still able to be charged with the actions of that child until the child do something so detrimental that then, watch this, both the parent and the child is held responsible. So even in instances where the child is held responsible, or that young man at this point, because let's face it, if he takes a life, he's not going to be tried as a child. He's going to be tried as an adult. So even in the instances where he's tried as an adult, the parents still carry some of that weight.
All right, so let me just stack the question a little bit for you, and this is still for you, Big Unk. Again, when we look at this boy right here, we see all the influences around him, and in the picture, maybe he looks like 8 or 9, but I'm making him, between 13 and 15 years old. If he decides to partake in any of those things, is that on the parent or is that on him as a young man?
Realistically, we've been pushing it off on the. I had a friend, his child was in the hospital. I told y'all about this. And while his child was in the hospital fighting for his life, and he didn't even know the condition of his child, he said something that really woke me up. He said, "Oh man, well, all I can really do is try to point them in the right direction. You can't control them. You can't really tell them what to do. They're going to do what they want to do. But the truth is, this man was absent because he was present in the streets. And so the streets became more important than his child, than his seed. And so the actions of that child, everybody is saying, oh, it's such a tragedy that, he was in a hospital, this, that, and the other. But the truth is, the tragedy is that the father wasn't there. And so when you're asking, is the child held accountable? We brush it off and act like it's null. It's like we brush it off and act like it's not even a thing to hold the child or the parent accountable.
I love it. I love it. That's a good place to start the conversation. For those of you that are tuning in, we are talking about our children and their mental health. Give us a thumbs up if the audio is clear. We want to make sure that you're hearing us, and share this with your network because we want to open up the conversation to as many people as possible. LaRon, I'm coming to you next. Same question. Are our children responsible for their actions? You're muted.
Honestly, the truth is this. Once you become of age and understand what we are doing, we're held accountable for our actions, point blank, period. But the truth is, it's also the parents' responsibility to raise up a child so that they make wise decisions. It's not saying that the child's going to make every wise decision. It's not saying that we're not going to make mistakes, but at the same time, it's both of our responsibilities because just because they're a child, children are not stupid. They are not stupid at all. Come on, we can't act like that now. They are very wise.
Let me ask you something. You said that once they reach a certain age, or you said understanding, once they understand what they're doing, is there an age that you will put on that maybe we'll call it like the age of accountability, where we say, okay, you know what you're doing, and so at this point, the decisions you make, you're at least partially responsible for. What would be your thoughts on that?
Honestly, brother, I wish I could really put a number on it to be clear on that. But the thing about it, I have a 9-year-old who's smart enough to know to make right decisions at her age that a 14-year-old may not know because they haven't been exposed to certain things. So I'm going to hold if my 9-year-old, I hold them more accountable than I may hold somebody, let's just say, for example, with special needs, but it's older. And I'm only saying special needs for the understanding of what they're able to grasp, their understanding. Now, I want to say, again, if I understand that my child at 9-year-old, again, let me slow down. If they're 12 years old and they don't know something, and then my 9-year-old does, I'm holding my 9-year-old accountable, and I'm teaching my 12-year-old what to do or not. So you really can't put an age on there. You got to know your child, raise the child up with their level of understanding. I really can't put an age on it. I really wish I could, but your 12-year-old might not know what a 9-year-old knows because of the training and the bringing up.
No, I appreciate that. Devin Elise, this is the founder of Lift It KC. It's a great organization. You definitely want to follow her and her movement. She's got some great things going on. But she said accountability starts at 3 in children when we teach them yes and no. And so that's her take on it. Andrew, your take, same question. Are children responsible for their actions after they know better?
Absolutely not.
Give us some context, please.
All right, forgive me. Are children responsible for their actions once they know better? I'd like to believe, and this is just my belief, that let's say a 17-year-old girl has a baby and does not know how to mother that child. 20-year-old boy gets a girl pregnant and does not know how to father that child. A 25-year-old set of adults, man and woman, have a child, and they don't necessarily know what's wrong when that baby is coughing or colicky or whatever the case may be. They call home and ask mom and dad. Even when they have that child, the man who is now 20 years old, 30 years old, still does not know the path that he needs to create for what he has created. The woman who has birthed what she has birthed does not know how to prepare what she has birthed, even through their 30s and 40s. Some of us don't understand or know that knowledge and that understanding some of it doesn't hit us until our 30s and 40s, and then we actually say, I should have done all of this. I regret not doing, even though I knew, but I didn't understand what I knew. I hadn't experienced what I knew. And if we can, accept that kind of excuse from a 30 or 40 or 20-year-old, why are we going to put that on a 3-year-old, a 10-year-old, or a 15-year-old?
Interesting perspective. Another comment from Devin Elise. The key part of the questions is if they know better. If a child has a child, they don't know, so they can't be held accountable. I also want to shout out brother Kareem Jackson, the owner of Black Kansas City Magazine. He actually wrote up a nice editorial for us in regards to our mental health town hall that's coming up this Saturday. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, but make sure you follow him. He's got some good things going on as well. AB.
I was a very smart kid in school. I learned that 1 + 1 = 2. I later learned how to multiply 1 times 1. I later learned geometry. I later learned trigonometry.
Yes.
Ask me anything that trigonometry does to my life. How it equates. What I know has nothing to do with what I need to know when I need to know it. Because I have no experience, I have no understanding of that knowledge that I have memorized.
Let's stay there. Are you saying that until you experience something, you don't know it?
Until I experience something, I don't understand it. I can still know it, but I don't understand. I know what hot is, but I don't know what hot is until I touch the hot stove. So
I have a question.
That's hot.
Marcus.
AB.
Yes, sir.
I've never participated in homosexual male-on-male activities. Does that mean that I don't know or understand that it's something that I don't want? I've never smoked crack. But does that mean I don't understand? I know that it's something I don't want. I have never ate pig ears or pig feet. I've seen them on the plate. I've seen them in the store. Heard people talk about them. That shit ain't touching my lips.
So let me ask you this. You said something like you don't participate in homosexuality. Do you participate in unprotected sex?
I'm 40 years old.
Do you participate in unprotected sex?
That is the best way, sir.
Okay, so there's a possibility that you have been with somebody who has been with somebody that has been with somebody who has given you that practice or that experience. Fortunately, you have not gotten the results of what maybe some of the other ones have had. Yet you know what danger is, yet you choose which danger you want to participate in.
Kareem Jackson left a good comment. Exposure is the key. I talk a lot about how it's not your fault. Without exposure, it's hard to be accountable. And so do we consider when our parents tell us, hey, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, is that a form of exposure, or does it need to be us physically involved in a specific thing? LaRon, what would you say to that?
I'm sorry, it kind of toned me. I didn't hear the question, brother. I think my internet was acting up. Say that one more time.
No problem. Kareem Jackson, he said exposure is the key. I talk about how it's not your fault. Without exposure, it's hard to be accountable. And so we've been talking about, we're trying to draw the line here on when are our children actually held accountable for their actions. And so can exposure be the parent simply telling them this is right, this is wrong? Is that exposure, or do they actually have to go through it before they can be held accountable?
Exposure is seeing it. Exposure can be, hey, I seen that for example, I was exposed, but I didn't experience a lot of things. And from me being exposed to certain things, I know, for example, that I didn't want to have a kid in my teenage years because I understood that I didn't want to have a baby now. I didn't want the responsibility of handling the weight. I knew a girl can get pregnant. So I wasn't out there just having a lot of sex. But I didn't have to have a baby to be exposed. I just have to recognize at a young age that that's not what I wanted. And so we don't have to experience it in order for us to learn its lessons. We just have to have the right guidance and the right teacher helping us understand the consequences of it. Now, again, each and every last one of us from a young age, as we all have heard the stove was hot and still touched it. We have heard there's STDs out here. We have heard a whole bunch of stuff. But some of us, as human beings, we want to experience it as human beings, as adults, as children, as women, as men. It doesn't matter. The truth of the matter is, and the main thing we got to focus on is saying, hey, look, you don't want to do this because of this right here. We have no control what they do, but if we are the example, it's the mentorship, it's leading by an example and exposing them by saying, hey, I've done this. This is what happened. You don't want it. But at the end of the day, it's still their choice.
So Kareem Johnson, he said, you don't know. Got to experience it to truly know. Devin says it depends. Some exposure needs to happen. Exposure can be someone's experience, and you can learn from that. But we all have free will. That's where logic versus religion kicked in my opinion. Listen, we appreciate the comments. We need more people in this conversation. So if you're watching but you're not commenting, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come talk to us. Talk to us. We want to know what you think. So
before you go past exposure, there are a lot of people who have never been exposed to the inner city. There are a lot of people who have never been exposed to the inner city or the people that live in the inner city. And some of them have jobs as judges and lawyers and police officers and bankers and doctors and everything else that has to somehow come in contact when that inner city comes out to them. And they act accordingly because they've never been exposed to it. They've learned a lot through television and through rap and through their teachings. They've never been exposed to my humanity.
So does that mean that they are not to be held accountable or responsible for the way they treat a person who's in the inner city when they're policing it?
That's an excellent point.
Big on.
If I could, please don't let me forget to touch on. Well, I'll just hit that now. It used to be that you were not allowed to be a police officer or police in a zip code that you did not live in. The reason being for this, and actually the Black Panthers were real big in instrumenting that and getting that law passed. The reason being is because if you're not from here, then you can't relate to the reason why somebody might be standing on a corner at a certain time of night. Well, this is when the Ford factory or the Fairfax district lets their workers off of work. So they're not, standing on the corner loitering or anything, but they're standing there waiting for a bus. We know that the last bus, because we live in this area, we know the last bus runs around such time. So I know that it's not time for me to start checking these bus stops until this. I know what these scenes in these areas and these neighborhoods look like and how they function. And so therefore, I can productively either judge, rule, be part of any part of society that helps keep structure. But going back to exposure, you asked, is a parent telling the child, no, you can't do that, no this, no that, yes this, yes that? Is that exposure? That's not exposure. That's coddling. And there's a big difference. I know I played the devil advocate a little bit earlier, but when parents are not, and parents, mentors, anybody that has that leadership role in the child's life, if they are not transparent, then you can't really give them safe exposure without actually having to touch the stove. If I tell my child, which I've had to do this, I told my son and I've told my daughter, I've told my stepchildren, hey, well, I had stepchildren. I'm not married now. I'm single. I told my stepchildren, I've been a hoe. I've been a pimp. I've tricked off my money. I've been out here partying. This is what came of it. But a lot of times the parents don't want to do that. We want to be perceived as clean. We want to keep being a hero. Put the dirt on your name that goes on your name so your child don't have to wear that dirt.
For those of you that are just tuning in, we appreciate you popping in real quick, but we hope you stay for a little while. Today we're talking about children's mental health, and right now we're talking about accountability. And at what age or at what point do we hold our children responsible for the decisions that they make? There's an image that we've been taking a look at. We have a young boy with all the influences around him, the same influences that all of our children are facing. if he actually decides to look over at one of those and partake in it, is he responsible or is he not? We're kind of split on the panel. We want to know your thoughts, and so leave your comments in the comments
Can I
section.
read? Can I read the legal number? I looked it up.
Go ahead.
Legally, it says the age of 18 triggers adult court jurisdiction over a person, must be at least 14 years of age under circumstances outlined in KRS. This is law 640.010 and this is also the age matrix of the Interstate Commission for Juveniles. So
Okay.
14 to 18 years old.
You asked that
So
question.
now what we're saying is that the system, and we have so many good things to say about the system. Joke. Dictates how we should view our children and their ability to comprehend and make decisions. Is that what you're saying?
The system taught us that we couldn't discipline our children the way that we wanted to. The system taught us that we couldn't do a whole bunch of things. And
Correct.
like Kareem Jackson's comment at 8:18, not the one that you have up, you asked that question. That's why they are not held accountable.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's why they get off. Their peers don't hold them accountable because they didn't know.
They were taught that we were animals. They were taught that we have guns and we will kill them. That's why they fear for their life. Anybody else who's carrying a Uzi or a submachine gun, just us.
Now let's talk about this comment here because this all ties in together. People, what we're trying to figure out is, are our children responsible, or is there any accountability on their end for the decisions they make once they reach a certain age or they have a certain level of understanding? And so we have talked about rites of passage at our past men's breakfast. If you have missed that, you have missed out. We're going to have another one next month, the third Saturday, so be looking out for that promotion. But it says, thanks, bro, speaking to Big Unk. That's coddling. Take our kids outside, take them to prisons, get them passports, expose them. Accountability is personal. There's this book that I've been reading, Counteracting the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And in the last chapter, it's called Counter Conspiracy Strategies. And so we have to strategize against the system. And it talks about a rites of passage program, and it literally is saying the same things that Brother Kareem Jackson says. It said that we should have, weekly field trips. We should be taking them to drug abuse centers, prison, pregnancy centers, etc. We need to expose our children. But after that exposure, again, are they accountable? Drew.
Read those other ones. Don't stop with the bad ones.
Okay. Hold on. Let me get back there. Okay, so no, I will. Drug abuse centers, teen pregnancy centers, public hospital emergency rooms on a Saturday evening, high school honors class, stock market, camping, computer-oriented businesses. We need to expose our children
To everything.
to everything.
It's crazy. I like reading articles. I'm not really a big book reader, but I didn't know that book was out here. And something that my father did with me, I did with my son. We would walk through the neighborhood. It didn't matter that he had a car. Didn't matter that we had bikes. We would walk through 27th and Wabash, 27th and Prospect, just all the way down 27th. We would walk through the city, and he would explain what we were seeing. I've done the same thing with my son, but I've been able to take him, in other areas, and we've done that. We've parked the truck, got out, started walking. And he's at the point that he asks questions like, well, this is what this is, man, this, that, and the other. I would suggest that since the legal system has given us ages, it's not a thing that's up for debate anymore. We have to accept that this is what it is between 14 and 18. So really, it's a race. It's a race to teach our children accountability and get them ready for 14 years old. Because at 14, they coming for our kids.
I agree. I cannot disagree with that. Let me give another thought. If we go back to early 1900s, none of us were there. But at 13, 14 years old, a young man was running a farm. He was possibly getting ready to get married and having his first children by 16. that maturity level, that ability to take on responsibility was completely different than it is today. Is that our fault as parents? Is that society? What changed?
Oh, I don't have to look that one up. I know that one.
When you
Give it to us. Laurent, yeah, we haven't heard from you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, honestly, that goes back to why I made the comment that if the child understands, when they understand, they're really held accountable, because the truth is our children are highly intelligent. And it still is a portion of the parents' fault, a great portion of the parents' fault. And again, it's still a portion of the child's fault just as well, because at the end of the day, we have innate humanistic triggers of right and wrong. We know right and wrong. We understand that. We understand it's wrong to shoot somebody and kill somebody. It was a person I knew some time ago, and I haven't talked to him or seen him in some years, about 8-10 years, a little past 10 years ago. And I recently heard of him that he was in prison, that he went at 14 years old or 16 years old. He was going to buy some drugs, some weed, him and his mama in the same car. And it went wrong. Somebody shorted somebody some change, put out a gun and killed the girl. Killed her. The mama was right in the vehicle with him. So yes, that showed a lot. You're buying your young child underage weed, and you're there with them, and then this happens. At the same time, that child still knew that killing somebody may not have had a father at home. It could have been so many different things. So what I'm saying is that it's very important to train our children. And if we train our children on how to run a farm, they're going to learn how to run a farm. They're going to learn these things. If we teach them finances, they're going to learn finances. If we train them and teach them communication etiquette, they'll learn communication etiquette. We just have to learn to not put our trauma on them so that it infects them in generations to come.
I love that. Now, there's a comment here that actually goes along with what you just said, and I think we need to tackle this as well if we're really going to unpack this properly. Devin Ali, she said, community influence is becoming greater than home, even in good homes. So for those of you that are watching, you're a good parent. You're talking to your child. You're having the conversations. You're exposing them to all these things that we're talking about. You're helping them gain understanding. But now we have outside forces. We have outside influences. We have media. We have school bullying, where they have to fit in. Because think about their time versus ours. They're at school for 8 hours a day, right? They come home. You're just getting off work. You're paying them some attention on the weekend. They're spending time with their friends. You're doing what you... They have a lot of time to be influenced by people other than you as a good parent. And so can we talk a little bit about how maybe bullying and outside influences can actually affect or counteract positive things that you're putting into your child? LaRon, I want to hear from you on that.
Wow. Wow, that's a very good question. It has a huge impact, because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, first of all, I'll say you have to build up your child's self-esteem at home. It all starts at home. And once you allow your child knows what their worth is, when you send them out to school and they're getting bullied, they won't believe the words that other people are telling them, that they're not good enough, that they're stupid, that they're not smart, or whatever it is, that they don't look good. The reason why they believe those things is because we don't fortify them enough. I know my baby going there, if somebody call her ugly, she won't believe them. Why? Because, baby, you are gorgeous. You are beautiful, Destiny. You're amazing, girl. Levi, you smart, bro. Bro, you did that? That's amazing. When we affirm our children and allow them to feel good about when they do something that's right, something that's correct, and we show them, hey, I see you. When they do get to school and they are bullied and different things like that happen, the way that they respond to it is different. But if you're already telling them they're stupid, they're nothing, they get in trouble for every single thing that they do at home, they're going to not feel worthy. So when they do go to school and somebody else tells them you're stupid, you're dumb, they already subconsciously feel that way and they act accordingly.
I love it. I love it. Lauren Jones, he's another part of Elevated Men. That's my partner, my brother. Thanks for tuning in. He said they came for our kids before they were born. Accountability has to be shown by accountable adults. We got to stop the blame game. Listen, we're going to take a really quick commercial break. We'll be here in 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas, and right now it's more important than ever to come together and support one another as a community and talk about something that affects each and every one of us, mental health. It's why I'm inviting you to join us for a special mental health town hall on September 28th at 10 a.m. at the Mohart Center. There we'll have mental health professionals, advocates, policymakers discussing topics of stigma surrounding mental health, barriers to access, and we'll work to create an actionable plan to address the mental health crisis in Kansas City. Let's break the stigma and build a healthier and stronger Kansas City together.
Hi, my name is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. There's a mental health crisis in Kansas City, and on Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Mohart Multipurpose Center, we're going to have a mental health town hall. The goal is for us to bring together mental health advocates, professionals, lawmakers, and the general public to address these issues. We need to see you there. Listen, if mental health is important to you, if you care about our city, the state of our city, you want to be in the building, you can go to Eventbrite and search Elevating Men. You can get your free tickets. You can reserve as many as you need to for your group, for your family. And so we want to make sure that we see you there. Really quick, I want to shout out a couple of our sponsors, and then I'll add some later on because I want to get back to this conversation. It's great. But we're going to shout out Aries Transportation and CDL Institute, Reach Healthcare, the Health Forward Foundation, the Oasis Church, the Restoration, Dreammaker Society, the City of Kansas City, Missouri, the Full Employment Council, National Congress of Black Women. When I say like we came together, we came together. So never say that in Kansas City they don't come together, because it's not true. And we have a host of other sponsors. We're going to address them here a little later in the conversation. But let's get back to the topic. We're talking about our children and mental health, how we as parents can help them overcome a lot of the things that they see in the world. And we've been using this image here. I love it. We've used it several times. But look at this little boy. Look him in the eyes. Look at the things that are around him. And the question that we started with is he responsible, or is he accountable for the decisions that he makes when it comes to these influences? We've been split all evening. We have people in the comment section. Some are saying, yeah, it depends on if he was exposed. We have some on the panel that say, hey, if he was exposed and you told him as a parent and he's at the age of understanding, yes, we should hold him accountable. We want to know what your thoughts are as well. And so if you're watching right now, we appreciate you. Make sure that you share this with your network and join the conversation. So let me get back in the comments really quick, because that's where it's all going down. Right here, we left off with Lauren Jones. They came for our kids before they were born. Accountability has to be shown by accountable adults. So last week, Drew, you said that we need to stop talking about generational trauma. We need to talk about our own personal traumas and address those. Otherwise, we're going to pass it on to our children. And in the future, they'll be having the same conversation saying, man, that last generation, man, they really messed us up. And so when you say accountability has to be shown by accountable adults, you're a visionary, in my opinion. What does that look like?
So let's go back to the farm, and forgive me for using the word back. Before that kid took over that farm at 15, that kid was actually carrying a bucket at maybe 2 or 3 years old, throwing seed out to the chickens. And when they got 5 and 6 years old, they were actually throwing slop out to the pigs. And when they got 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 years old, they were walking the cattle. They were unlocking the gate so they can go to graze. And when they got a little bit older, Daddy actually showed them how to slit the cow's neck and how to let the blood pour out, and at what time in the morning to do that while the cow was still asleep. He was shown. He wasn't told. He wasn't saying, hey, this is how you need to do it. Here, get this book and look at this. Or just remember what I'm telling you, because you're going to need to know all of this when the time comes. Yeah, that's what responsibility is in action. That parent was responsible for how they were raising that child. They even gave that child a gun at a certain age to teach him how to hunt squirrels, to see what death looks like, how to pull those BBs and those pellets out of that squirrel, because they were going to eat it that night. That's why that 15 could own his own farm, because he knew everything to do, because he'd already done it. We don't teach our children these things. So when Lauren was talking about the age of accountability and somebody talked about good parents, put that image back up, please. Some good parents will actually say, you know what? Before I even have a child, where am I going to live? What kind of community, common unity am I going to raise my child in? I'm going to have not only a plan, but I'm going to have a bank account to make sure I can actually enact my plan. But if I have this child first without being accountable or responsible for what I'm bringing into this life, now we have to live wherever we can afford to live. And then I have to tell him what I wish I would have done better so he can navigate his way to get back home.
And that's exactly what Kareem Jackson said. Parents need to take responsibility, but also get them out of those environments. And so now you don't have as much to counteract. I appreciate that comment. We got a couple here, though. So I think this kind of goes in line with what you were saying, Drew. Larnell Jones, that's one of my other brothers, man. Thanks for tuning in. He said, in regards to the difference of times today and the past, I think it's a mix of things: industrialization to urbanization, lack of resources, racism. I believe he said family dynamics that can play a part in the declination of development. All those things. We got Devin Elise. I believe she was alluding to your comment, Laron, about how we can instill things into our children. We can give them positive affirmations. We can help them be a little closer to their parents than they are to the outside world. But she said, whew, I wish that was true. I hit one parent being positive, but 10 peers telling them different. Guaranteed they will question the parents' truth versus their peers. Gotta pause there. Got to pause there. We spend a lot of time pouring into our children. We give them everything that we know to give them. What we don't know, we don't know. But we only have so much time and we're only one voice. And so when they end up at school and they've got 10 different people telling them something completely different, how do we help them counteract that? Mark.
There's an article called The Presence of Absence. And we say we spend a lot of time pouring into our children, but the truth of it is, this new age of parenting, most of us don't. Like AB was saying, I plan to have every child that I have, which is only 2. And I plan to have the finances ready. I did what was needed so that I could step away from work and be 100% available for my child. I started pouring into him before he was born. I started pouring into his life and his situation before he got here. I did do it. Once somebody commented and said that society has changed and this, that, and the other, so it's different. It's not. My son has been on a job site since like 2 or 3 years old. He used to crawl around up under the truck while I was working on it. He knew the difference between a screw, a nail, a tape measure, a speed square before he could read or count. And I kept pouring into him and he started gravitating to those things. His mom did try to pull him away, but I'm saying all this to say we are letting devices like phones and tablets and TV raise our children versus us actually spending all the time talking to them, pouring into them, working with them, seeing what their knack is, seeing what their shortcomings are. And so at that point, by the time they get to school, the reason why those voices, I don't care how many kids, it could be a class of 60, don't matter. Those voices are louder because your voice wasn't there. You were physically there, but you wasn't present.
I want to say something about that. I think that's very good, what he's saying. And that goes, that was powerful. I don't think we do realize how much we actually are pouring into our children or not pouring into our children. Because I kid you not, even with Destiny, I almost thought about calling her in here if she wasn't in bed. And she was telling me a story how somebody at school called her a name. And I said, and what did you say? Because I really wanted to know how she responded to it. Now, she responded to it in a positive way as far as when it comes to you got it wrong, but a negative way when it came to how she said it. But again, that comes with you being intentional. The reason why I have been so intentional, and I wrote this down in my journal the other day, and I went through some what is called inner child work. But I was going through my journal, and I found out the reason why I pour into my children like that, and I'm so motivational, is because I was told about my limitations. I felt stupid. I felt unworthy. I didn't feel good enough. And as a result of that, I started to say, what could I have? What do I wish my parents would have done for me? And not that they didn't do all they could do, but one thing that I wish they would have done, and I said, was I wish they would have affirmed me more. Because if they would have affirmed me more in the household, when I did go out, when I was told by somebody else, you stupid, I would have been like, my mama said, my daddy said, I was amazing. And so we look up to our parents as heroes. We really do. We know that they're heroes. They're more heroes than our peers. And if our parents are saying it enough, I like how you said that, Ben Gunk, we're saying it enough and are really doing it intentionally, then when they really do get in that situation, they're already fortified because they're going to come to you and tell you what happened, and all you got to do is keep reaffirming them.
Can I?
Please.
My son is 12. My son, he's slightly autistic. He hits the spectrum, but not enough for them to give us help. His mom doesn't know what to do with him. I'm not bashing her by no means at all. We all have our own struggles. I just turned out to have a knack for him. But that's because I removed myself in order to parent him. My son will come over and he asked to skip school so that he could come to work with me. My son argued with me on a job site. A woman said, "You like coming to work with your dad so you can meet nice ladies to give you ice cream?" My son looked at her dead ass and was like, "I come to work to work." I said, "Q, go sit in the truck so I can figure out how to write this receipt." He said, "You doing it on a new thing?" I said, "Yeah, it's a new app." He stood right there. I told that young man 4 or 5 times, "Get in the truck, Q." How you do the receipt? Q, I said, "Get in the truck." Dad, are you going to do the receipt? He is more excited about learning than he is about. And this was the other thing. You said something, Lorraine, about how your parents affirmed you. I'm not bashing my mom and dad at all, but they did not. My father was a silent, strong type. My mom actually bashed me. My mom told me at 12 that I was going to be a hoe. My mom told me I was going to have my first child by the time I was 16. I had a stepdad that told me, I came home one day, I had a friend that drew, and I came home and said, "Hey, I'm a draw, I'm gonna be an artist." He held my hand up and said, "You have short, stubby fingers. The only thing you'll ever be is a fighter." And I had a temper and I used to fight all the time. I said I wanted to be a lawyer. I said I wanted to be a preacher. And because I couldn't remember dates and I couldn't remember names, I had teachers telling me that you won't be able to do that. And so for me, the motivation was everything. I had to motivate myself, and I did it from a young age. And so I took that and I instilled that into my son. And so my son came home and told his mom, "I don't want to go to summer school anymore. I'm not getting smarter. I want to go over to my dad's house and go to work because there I learned."
Put Kareem's last 2 comments up, please.
Says we do that with tablets because why? The environment. We need 2 and 3 jobs in the house to pay the bills. Parents are not home. He said, "I was with my father, his business too. No daycare." What are your thoughts, Drew?
Yeah.
My thoughts are that's how a lot of people consider daycare. You know, they had 2 and 3 jobs, or they had to work to make the household, to help the household eat. But the father took the son to work. The mother may have taken the daughter to work. And it was their responsibility to watch over that child because there were dangers out there. But it was also their responsibility to help entertain that child. And entertainment was teaching them how to work. And kids, if you look at a 2-year-old that is still at home with mom, they will grab a broom when mom is in the kitchen and they will start to try and sweep. They will grab the vacuum cleaner and try and push it with all their might. They will try to emulate what it is that is being done, not what is being said. But
Good point. So, I've been referring to this book a little bit tonight, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, and I believe that everything in here applies to our young women too. I was trying to find this specific paragraph. It says the conspiracy has become more complex when oftentimes the perpetrators reside in the home and in the classroom. It is most destructive between the primary and intermediate grades. The method is to eliminate positive male role models, discourage emotional and spiritual development, de-emphasize academics while the technology becomes more complex. Any thoughts on that?
Well, my first thought was that the first teacher, which is the parent, failed them, and the second teacher failed them because the first teacher didn't equip them to come and learn what the second teacher had learned to tell them. If that makes sense. I didn't come here to raise your child. I only came here to regurgitate what I learned for 4 years to get this degree and get paid. But you didn't prepare them to listen to me.
So true, so true. There's one thing is I have to do a quick. I'm gonna come to you right after this. I gotta do it's some housekeeping, y'all. Some housekeeping. We got sponsors now, so we got to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do. But there is something that Kareem Jackson said that is important to what I'm getting ready to say. He said the KC Black community does support, but the mental health is not our fault. We are stuck in that KC history. We are stuck in that KC history. And I would encourage you to say that we can become unstuck. And the way that we can do that is with this event that's coming up this Saturday. It's our mental health town hall. We actually have government officials who will be in the building who are ready to listen to our concerns as it relates to mental health. And we're not just going to be talking because we do too much talking. We're going to be coming up with actionable plans. We have a form that we've created that will allow you to give your input on the mental health crisis in Kansas City. And not only will you just be filling out a form, we have Senator Barbara Ann Washington, State Representative Mike Johnson. We have Mayor Pro Tem Raina Park Shaw. Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver will also be in the building. And so they will hear your voice. And we'll work out solutions. We also have Damon Daniels from Ad Hoc, Nicole Garner for the Center for African American Health. We have a host of counselors, including Tony Vaughn, Chandra Green, Jessica Doan, and Caleb Adegoke. And so we are working to come up with solutions. Got to shout out our sponsors real quick. We have the City of Kansas City, Missouri, Reach Healthcare, Aries CDL Institute, Health Forward, the Oasis Church, Swope Health, Full Employment Council, Williams Financial Group, Resolve Counseling, Dreammaker Society, A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency. Hello, if you need life insurance, give me a call. The Restoration, the KU Center for African American Health, the National Congress of Black Women, and the Ad Hoc Group Against Crime. We're all coming together to make this happen. We definitely want to see you there. Back to the conversation. Big up.
Okay. That was good. I would like to actually say that mental health on the scale, a lot of times is not. The scale is skewed. I remember there was a program. I was at Bingham in 6th grade. I don't know why math was hard for me at that time. It just was not catching. The math teacher took it upon herself to exercise her right to still stick with the rubric and hit everything that she's supposed to teach us, but she used a different program. She used a book other than the textbook they gave. And in this book, at the beginning of the semester, she said, because she noticed that all of us were doing bad. Not one of us, all of us. Problem is, that was a black class. So now they're just going to say, oh, well, they don't have the ability to learn. They don't have the ability to retain. She had us pick, we picked a profession. After we picked the profession, every problem, it was all in that profession. We learned the profession. And so that helped us learn and retain the math. But then she got other teachers on board. So for that whole semester, your science, your math, everything, it all started making sense because it was real life problems. There's a difference between educating and programming. Our education system programs, and when you don't fit the program, then it's deemed that your mental health is off and you don't fit society. So now you're not productive. So then you tell yourself, well, I got to find another area that does accept me. And then that's usually the streets. That's usually all those images. I was just about to say it around that young man. We can walk through these images. You got the game flags down at the bottom. You got the heart. That's somebody else's heart. That ain't his. That's somebody else's mind. The need to have money because we think money is solving problems, but then there's some problems you can't solve with money. You got to pull that pistol out. But then I read this in this article, but then they showed me this flyer, but then my homie is smoking this, but then I'm starting to hit these hormones. You know, them titties is looking nice. I see the bras already off of it. And then you got religion sitting there, but then is that religion or is it wealth or is it my religion or is it all these different things? Sports is the only way out, bro. But then you got somebody else telling you, go get the education. But if you drink enough, you'll forget the whole situation.
If you drink enough, you'll forget the whole situation. We got a comment here from somebody who's actually in the school, so I want to make sure I put that up. Melvin Lamont Brown. That is one. Listen, this brother deserves a community award. I'm telling you, he is everywhere all the time, connecting people. We love everything that you do. We appreciate you tuning in. He said, here's what I see in education. There are children growing up in broken homes. Sometimes it's babies raising babies. Andrew, you had a comment.
Put that picture back up, please. So, out of the 14 figures that are around that child, advertising what they want that child to participate in. When I was that child's age, there were at least 7 of those hands in the same Boy Scout group. In the same Boy Scout group. There were about 4 of those hands that were outside of the community doing whatever their dirt was because everybody was on the porch at nighttime. So there were eyes on that common unity, that community. And the remainder, we never knew about because, like I said, we were either Boy Scouts or something that was organized to raise us. That's missing now.
Wow.
LeBron, we haven't heard from you in a minute. There's been a whole lot said. Pick one. What is hitting you right now? What are you feeling?
I was thinking about, even what AB just said as far as having activities again, really kind of putting coming and putting light on that. Because I thought about it, I was in the Boys and Girls Club. And even though we didn't have we wasn't raised in a lot of poverty when it came to a lot of crime and different things like that. But what it did do, it did keep us active, keep us doing something that was fun, kept us involved dealing with community. When we do have a lot of positive influences and we are putting our children in places where they can flourish, where they can have fun, where their gifts, skills, talents, abilities are. And that's why it's good to know our children and knowing where they're good at, paying attention to them, so we can give them an early start. One thing that I learned is that when we in general are doing something that we really love, our minds are not thinking of all the extra bull crap when we find something that we really love. So that's why it's so powerful in our homes to direct our children in the direction that helps them to find their passion and purpose early. Now, when they find that, we can put them in dance if it's dance. If they like art, we can put them in that. Put them in areas where it takes their mind away from poverty. Show them a life that they can flourish in, something that they deem fun, something that gets them excited. If we had a program that allows people to come here, and again, you never know. That's why we want to be at this town hall meeting, because your voice matters. If there's an idea that you have, bring it to the town hall meeting. Because we want to find out what can we do if there is programs. Somebody right now has a program that they've been trying to get out there. That's why you got to be at the town hall meeting. Because if we introduce these programs to our city, now what we do is we build a great community of people that are now prospering, who are successful, and don't have to go to crime, but can really add value to the community and add value to their own life and success.
Will you put Kareem Jackson's comment at 8:33 p.m., please? KC Black community does support.
1 second. Let me go back. You said 8:18.
No, 8:30. Oh, shoot. Where is it? 8:33, I think it was. Yeah, 8:33.
There it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
KC Black community does support, but the mental health is not our fault. We are stuck in that KC history.
Yeah, I want to believe, and Melvin Brown, you can correct me, please, and forgive me if I'm speaking wrong. I want to believe that that was what you were commenting to. Care to break that down, Kareem Jackson? And Kareem, forgive me as if I know what you were talking about, but I'd like to comment on that. Kansas City Black community does support, but the mental health is not our fault. And that's where I want to stay. The mental health is not our fault, because we started this conversation about our 3-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds responsible. I don't hold them responsible because the Kansas City community right now, the mental health of our community, it's not our fault because we don't even recognize, we don't even understand what we are doing to our tomorrow. We don't understand that through our non-actions, what we are doing to our tomorrow. We don't understand through our non-organization, our non-coming together, our non-getting over ourselves is doing to our tomorrow. But yet we are saying that they should be responsible for something that we choose not to be responsible for, or not even to even accept or acknowledge or face.
Big on.
So there's I like how he keeps breaking down community. But if I could read this, it says, while the words are often used interchangeably, neighborhoods and communities are vastly different. Whereas a neighborhood is defined by a geography, a community is defined by a bond among people. Even the friendliest neighborhoods can lack a sense of community because it is about more than being nice. So when he made the comment about, man, I was about to go there, KC Jim Crow. Okay. So when he made the comment about the Kansas City history, not getting too deep, I don't want to steal that man's thought, but we haven't had community in a long time. We've lost that era of people sitting on the porch. It's kind of hard to do what you want to do in the streets when all eyes is on you. Nobody sitting on the porch playing dominoes and playing chess and stuff like that. It's not, oh, well, Miss Cheryl gonna see me down the street if I'm sneaking in this girl's window. It's we lost the community because we lost the unity. And when you take the resource out of the neighborhood, out of the community, that's how you end up with just neighborhoods. It's the hood now. And what I mean by that is people that stay in the neighborhoods are usually the ones that don't make it. And so now you got the drunks, you got the drug addicts, you got the thieves, you got the guys that's only working temp agency jobs and they can't really get no further. And same thing with the women, but this is about men. And so those are the examples we have in our neighborhood because the community has dispersed. So now when you get a good job, the first thing you think about doing is I got to get out of here. I got to leave this hood. And then you take you, which is the resource, away. And so now the children that are coming up, there's no one there. There's no community to raise them.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There used to be a grandmother that lived in a house, and 2 doors down, if not next door, was her sister. And 3 doors down was their uncle. And around the corner was their cousin. They weren't trying to get away from each other. They found a safe spot and a safe space because they all knew each other. And they would actually bring food and exchange food and come get food when one of them's household was short. But that was the common unity. Nowadays, there is no there's only the hood because no one knows their neighbor.
So true. So true. I want to focus on this comment for just a second. Corey Infamy, he's been rocking with us for a long time. He's actually been on the show a couple times. He has his own podcast. Follow him. Check out everything that he's doing. He's got some good work going on. He said the adults are afraid of the youth. And so I want to focus there a little bit because he talked about the old men, the uncles playing dominoes and chess on the porch so they could see what was going on in the neighborhood. I remember at one point I interviewed Alvin Brooks, and he talked about the beginnings of the ad hoc group against crime, where they would go out with megaphones in front of the drug dealer's house and say, hey, get out of our neighborhood, right? And so there were groups of men and women who weren't afraid to speak truth. to those people who were running down the neighborhoods. They weren't afraid. And so
Yeah.
are today's adults afraid of the youth? Is that a part of the problem? Are we too scared to address them and let them know that what they're doing is wrong and that it's tearing up our communities, and that there are consequences? Andrew, I see you nodding your head. What are your thoughts?
Our thoughts is our forgive me for going backwards, but our parents were afraid. That's why they taught us how to get home safely. They were afraid for our lives, and they taught us how to navigate so that we could get home, meaning there are things out there to fear. They never emboldened us. They never taught us that, hey, there is something out there worth living for, because their primary responsibility was to get us home alive through all those fears. And that was what was born in us, is be careful, child, be careful, be care-filled, child. And we begin to fill our children with that fear-filled care. So we are still afraid to face what we face.
This actually happened towards the mid to the end of the 60s, going into the 70s, the demasculization of Black men and destroying the family unit in the Black community. Planned Parenthood, which was not Planned Parenthood at first, it was actually an agenda to snipe out the Black man. They sought to kill us in the womb. When the Black man during the 60s and 70s was removed from the home, and they started implementing different programs, mostly led by Democrats, while y'all voting for them, and it was to make the man have less value at home. So now we reward the woman for kicking the man out. You can get more out of Section 8 than you can get out of your husband or your child's father. You can get further. We'll educate you. We'll send you to school. We'll support. We'll give you food stamps, TANF, welfare, whatever is needed. So now the mother starts to feel like, well, I do better with the government than I do with my own man. And so now, and I know we all know about that, but here's a side effect of some consequence. What happens is now that Black man is disassociated with his offspring. So now he doesn't have the same authority that he used to have. He doesn't have the same voice that he used to have. And it kept magnifying itself as the ball rolled downhill. And now we are, here in 2024. And no, you don't have the same voice. Your voice don't carry the same weight that it used to, because there were so many generations of you not being present.
Now, here's the thing. We always end up going back. And I appreciate the context, because if we don't know our history, we don't know how to shape our future. But because we all know these things now, like we've all got access to the information, we've seen the YouTube videos. This is a conversation that's probably happening on 100 different podcasts right now. The system always looks ahead and plans ahead. And so once we understand one thing, now they introduce something else. Now we've got social media. We got women going back and forth with men going back and forth with women. There's a different destruction of the family that's happening now that we understand everything that you just shared. And so that's where I believe that the common unity, right, versus the neighborhood, the community versus the neighborhood is so important, because no matter what they do, it's about what we do. It's about us staying connected, understanding the issues within our own communities, and making change where it needs to be. And so there's another sentence here I want to read. It says, we must develop programs and organizations to protect and develop African-American boys, because a conspiracy exists to destroy African-American boys. And what I want to do is read the exact same thing, and I'm going to change it to families. Listen. We must develop programs and organizations to protect and develop our families, because a conspiracy exists to destroy our families. And so if there were some programs, if there were some organizations that could really address the family issue that ends up affecting our children's mental health, let's look forward, not backwards. What do those programs or organizations look like, and what would they be implementing?
Let me
I want to hear from the comment. I want to hear from the comment section as well. What can we do, LaRon?
Communication.
Talk about it.
Point blank, period. Communication. What I found out, a lot of homes are broken because the parent and the child doesn't have great communication. There's not an openness. There's not, a lot of times we as parents, because of how we were raised, we raise our children the same way instead of rewiring our way of thinking and pressing forward instead of looking back. And so having a relationship where our children or our child feels like that they can come to us and talk to us and feel like that they're not going to be in trouble, and really showing how to communicate between a child and an adult, showing that, hey, look, at the end of the day, we organizations that help the parent rewire, because we can't train what we don't even know. We have to be able to go through a program that allows us to get over our childhood trauma. Because at the end of the day, if we are not over our childhood trauma or our trauma, all we do is breed trauma, and trauma breeds trauma. So being able to have an organization to where we come together and there's some dealing with communications, how to talk to each other, then we can begin to build that relationship and move forward with that.
Listen, so my brother down here, over here, he's been covering his face up for like the last minute and a half, and so there is something he is trying to get out. Let it out, bro. Let it out. What is it?
I'm trying to get it out. No.
No, let it out.
I want to be careful, and Big Unc, this is no counter to what you were saying, but I want to be careful to the message that we are putting out about Section 8 and the women in the homes and the kicking the fathers out. I also think, because I used to work for the Housing Authority and for some years, and I knew some of their rules. I also worked for HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and there was no written rule saying that the father could not be in the home. They only were income based. So if the mother did not have an income and the father did, they were going to take a third of his income. And what I also learned through hearsay, because I was not that person, but some of those fathers said, you know what, I don't want them to take a third of my pay. In fact, if you say that I don't live here, that means I'll have all of my pay to spend on us. And all I'll do is come in every now and then, and I'll take care of, when they come and do an inspections or when they're around, when the man is heavy. But what that offered him to do was to say that very same thing to his family across the tracks.
Yep.
Because he was trying to maximize what he was getting versus stay with his family.
So you're saying us trying to work the system allowed the system to work us?
Exactly. So that's
wow.
That's what hearsay has.
Now, one of our points, real quick, Big Unc. So one of our points that I dropped in the chat before we got on here actually had to do with poverty. It had to do with income, and this is the perfect opportunity for us to shout out another one of our sponsors. We'll be back in 36 seconds.
Getting your CDL is more than just earning a certificate. It's about creating a balanced life and prioritizing what matters most. At Aerie CDL Institute, we understand the importance of mental health, work-life balance, and spending quality time with your family. We're here to guide you into a rewarding career that not only supports your financial goals, but also allows you the flexibility to be there for your loved ones. Let us help you take the wheel of your future, because a fulfilling career starts with a healthy balance.
So if you want to get your income up so that you don't have to deal with all these things that we're talking about right now, go to Aerie CDL Institute. They've got classes that are coming up. We actually did an interview with them on Tuesday of last week. You can go to our YouTube channel at Elevating Men and get the full scoop on how the trucking industry could be your ticket to six figures. Back to the conversation, Big Unc.
So I couldn't search it fast enough. But there were welfare checks that were done that said that if the father was in the home, then you did not qualify for welfare. If there was any signs of a man being in the home, you did not qualify. Also, a lot of people don't even know the full extent of what Section 8 is really supposed to do. People don't even know that that's supposed to buy you a house, not supply your rent. And so they're not exercising the programs to their fullest extent. There's a lot of positive spins on it, it still goes back to it's kind of what he said. Yeah, the program was there. And so us trying to work the program caused the men to step away. And so in that sense, we still come back to the same thing, that we have children that are lacking the components that they need in order to become successful.
Put up
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Amber Lucrecia's comment.
Yeah. I was just getting ready to hop on that one. Very good one. Very good one. And so she said, let me get that here. Okay. We destroy our own family. No program can remedy that. How do we progressively move to make that happen? Starts with understanding your parents' story. This allows you to humanize and empathize with them. Also allows for you to walk in a place of forgiveness. All parties must be ready. I 100% feel that. 100%
I
feel
said that earlier,
We can
where I was saying the parent has to be transparent. I was in a marriage and she didn't want to tell, man, this is crazy. I'm not going to mention any names. I was in a marriage. She did not want to tell her children that she used to hold. I'm going to be straightforward, 100% uncut. She did not want to tell her daughters that that's what she used to do. She did not want to tell her daughters what her daughters were telling me, that we know the only times we had nice things is when mom was laying on her back in order to get on her feet. What happened? The divorce happened. I was forced out the home. Oldest daughter ran away, started sleeping with young men. Now that girl, the highest grade she accomplished was 7th grade. She's now 21 with 2 children. The other child tried to run away. Another daughter tried to kill herself. They are now repeating everything that she tried to hide from them that she was or that she experienced. Because I don't believe that we are what we go through. But when we don't be transparent, we send our children into that same activity.
Well, a lot of times we're leaving them to fill in the blanks. And so they're wondering, like, why is life the way it is? And like you said, when we don't give them a level of transparency where we say, hey, these are the mistakes that I made, they believe that that was just their plight in life. In fact, it could be as simple as you live on the east side of Kansas City, Missouri, and you see the rundown neighborhoods and you see that the schools don't have any of the programs. And then on the weekend, you all drive to Overland Park so you can go to Oak Park Mall and you drive past all the beautiful homes. You end up, maybe possibly having a friend in that area and they're talking about Rifle Club and all these different activities that they have. And they say, wait a minute, maybe these things just aren't for me, when the fact of the matter is, it's the parent who made poor decisions that put you in the state that you're in. And so we do have to have a level of transparency so our children understand and contextualize exactly what's going on in their life and why they're where they are, but also more importantly, that they can do something different.
I know.
Clarification, please. Big Unc, did you say that her kids said the only way we can have nice things is when she's on her back? Did you say something like that?
Yep. She had to lay on her back in order to get on her feet.
Okay. And they knew that? That's what they said to you?
Yes, I would take them. So, transparency. There was 6.
That's all.
No, it did happen. There were 6 children. I would take them. I would give them one-on-one time, whether it was me taking them for a ride or taking them to a job site, and they would tell me in that one-on-one time the different things that they seen and the reason why. And they were so confused because they said, you have one child and you married our mom, and it's like you haven't missed a beat. And so they became enraged. They became angry because they was like, why is it that you're able to step in and you went from 1 kid to 7 and you haven't missed a beat and you're providing for all of us and this, that, and the other. And it made the picture so much clearer that what was going on with their fathers was not right. That they finally saw how neglected they were. They knew they were, but when I started being a father to them, they saw how neglected they were. Again, that article that said the presence of absence. The absent parent a lot of times is more present because the absent parent stays on the mind and the child makes up their own reality of who that parent is. This is what we're dealing with the mental health.
Yeah,
Amber,
LaRon,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Communication being key.
Yeah.
And What I'm trying to say is, if I understood you correctly, they actually said that the only time we get good stuff is when she lays on her back to come up, something similar to that, to
Yeah.
get on her feet. Excuse me. In my opinion, communication is not always verbal. She was communicating clearly with them, and that's why they knew what she was communicating to them. Was she communicating anything other than that? Possibly not, because maybe that's why that's all that they know is because what she communicated to them. But what I'm trying to say is, like Kareem had indicated, this illness, this mental illness that was in her, and it was probably in her mother and her mother's mother, because that was the only way that they could get on their feet and give their children nice things. Maybe we don't realize how to forgive, like Amber Lucretia says, how to understand, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, what that really means, so that we can actually say, you know what, it's their fault. No, because tomorrow is going to be my fault if I don't let that shit stop right here with me. Yesterday is gone. I am the tomorrow.
So the two things that we were trying to do in this conversation, I heard it come up. We was talking about the past trauma and that affecting our mental health. And AB, you was trying to say, hey, let's get away from the past trauma and deal with the present trauma. But here's the crazy thing. You can't. You have to merge the two, because that's reality. When we were in slavery, the only way she could bring peace and security to her kids was if she could lay down with them. And the kids she had with the white man, she had a chance of wooing him into protecting the children. But they also saw, dang, mama got to lay on her back in order for us to get something. By the time income tax come around, those kids knew they wasn't getting nothing, because they said, we got to catch up on bills. They knew it. While all the other families were celebrating the income tax season, they knew this is our chance to just catch up.
Now, see, here's the thing.
When a ban came around, that he was temporary, and they had to get what they could get while they could. And that's the same thing from slavery. The past has become the present.
So you said that we can't, and I'm not disagreeing with you, because I don't know what we're capable of, because first, we are not a we. However, I'd like to believe that some history actually says that many other tribes of people, not just of those colored people, were enslaved also. And for some reason, not only were they enslaved, they could, because they did, because they don't anymore.
That's what I wanted to focus on. So we talked about the lady that was on her back because she had to, and we talked about slavery. But now, modern day, we're talking about OnlyFans, right? So there was a comment that was brought up that said people are having to work 2 and 3 jobs to be able to support their families, so now they don't have time to rear their children. We also stated something along the lines of, to be able to get nice things, there were things that the mother had to do that were outside of maybe what her moral compass originally was. But she said, you know what, I want to be able to provide this or that for my children, so I'm going to break my moral code so that I can provide. Everybody has choices, right? Mm-hmm. And so why are we so conditioned to take the easy way out? Because it's 2024. We all have laptops, computers, smartphones, all these different mechanisms that can open us up to the world, allow us to increase our income. But we decide, we make a choice, and we say, okay, I'm going to take the easy way out. I'm going to lay on my back and put a camera in front of me. And I don't care if my children's friends see it. I don't care if their fathers see it. I don't care if the parents in the neighborhood see it. My kids are going to wear Jordans. I'm going to drive a nice car. We're going to have a fancy house. And so why do we always choose the easy way out as if there's no other options?
I want to add to that real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'll say it's the easy way out. Just right there, you said it. It's the easy way out. Point blank, period. It's a lot easier. And for example, like the drug dealer who sells drugs, because it gives them the money quicker. It gives them a greater proportion. And he can get to what he wants to get to the quickest, whatever he loves to indulge in, or whatever he wants to take care of. The same thing with the woman who is fast money. I've heard of many people, who said they in the stripping industry, and it was fast money. It wasn't because they like to do it per se, but it got it quicker. It allowed them to support their families. And so again, it just comes down to I don't want to put in a 9-to-5 work for a job and not get as paid as quick as it can for me to get on the pole or sell drugs. Or I don't want to work as an entrepreneur, because the truth is that entrepreneur takes work. And a lot of people don't work because of what work calls for them to do. And work takes years. It doesn't just pop up in a day. And so I believe it comes down to us being lazy, wanting to make fast money. But fast money, I always say the fast money is not lasting money.
You spoke about the drug dealers, LaRon, and that's the thought that I forgot earlier when we talked about what program should we implement. When they're doing these raids, did you know that the police buy houses in the inner city just to practice raids? They practice how to kick your door in and take your son, your daddy, your uncle, your brother to jail. This is my problem. I agree with him. It's about getting to that result, getting to the goal faster. Well, we have other nationalities or communities where they get to the goal faster because they start with generational wealth. So they start ahead of the race. What if the next time they bust that drug dealer, that dope boy, instead of you taking the money and you counting it and it disappearing, you mandate that the money has to go back into the community that he destroyed to get his shortcut.
Great point. Shell76 tuning in from YouTube. For those of you who are unaware, we have a YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, search Elevating Men. You'll find all of our past content there. We want to make sure that you lock in on the conversations that we have, because as you can see tonight, they get deep. They get so deep that we go over our time all the time. But I love it. I absolutely love it. Which we've been past 9, man. Listen, we can have this conversation all night long. I love what we've unpacked up to this point. We're not going to get all the solutions or all the answers tonight, but we have a lot of things that we can think about, a lot of things that we can converse with our people on. And so make sure that you actually share this stream, watch it with your family. Particularly, let me pull this young man up one last time. If you have a young man, or we can actually substitute this for a young lady in your household, I encourage you to take an hour and about 20 minutes, sit down with the children of your household and listen to this show again and get their input. Get their input, because we're all adults here. We're talking about what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Hear it directly from them. Let this be a conversation starter in your household. AB, remember the last prayer breakfast, there was a 17-year-old young man there that we were able to ask questions about how he feels. He was brought by Big Unc. We appreciate that. But it makes all the difference in the world. And so we can talk all day as adults, but let this video be a conversation starter in your home. Would you do us that favor, please? And then after you do that, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and then go to Eventbrite, search Elevating Men, and make sure that you register for our event this Saturday. It is so important for our community. It's not your average event. We're actually making change. We're having the conversations that need to be had. There was a comment from Lamont Brown. I got to pull him up because this brother always just says the right thing at the right time. He said, I trust the people will take advantage of this opportunity to show up to the mental health town hall. It could be people are tired of the same old thing. This is not the same old thing. This is something different. I shared the town hall event with our school community. We appreciate you for that. And my colleagues who serve families in the KC metro area. Undoubtedly, I believe you will affect change in someone's life, even if it's only one person. This initiative will not be done in vain. Thank you so much for that sentiment, and I wholeheartedly agree. We want to make sure that you all tune in. We're going to do one last commercial because we have a word from our mayor, Quentin Lucas. I think that's important for you all to know that he supports this event as well. Give us about 30 seconds. We're going to come back and we're going to close out the show.
Hi, I'm Kansas City Mayor Quint Lucas, and right now it's more important than ever to come together and support one another as a community and talk about something that affects each and every one of us, mental health. It's why I'm inviting you to join us for a special mental health town hall on September 28th at 10 a.m. at the Mohart Center. There we'll have mental health professionals, advocates, policymakers discussing topics of stigma surrounding mental health, barriers to access, and we'll work to create an actionable plan to address the mental health crisis in Kansas City. Let's break the stigma and build a healthier and stronger Kansas City together.
Again, that's elevatingmen.eventbrite.com. Go to Eventbrite, search Elevating Men, do whatever you got to do. Go to our website, elevatingmen.org. Make sure you're in the building. All right. Any last words or final thoughts, my friends?
So I would like to say that word we, our, common unity, us, all those words that have no meaning right now. Please, audience, give those words meaning. Give those words meaning. Come to this event Saturday. Register. Bring someone. Share the event link with someone. Bring more than one person. What we are hoping that we will do is come together beyond that event. We want to know who you are. We want you to know who we are. We want to know why you are. We want you to know why we are, so that we can understand your pain. We can help with your pain. You can understand our pain. You can help with our pain. And someday that we will be real, and tomorrow's generation will be born into a we.
Love it. Love it. Big up. Talk to him. Last word, final thoughts.
I know that it's a far-fetched idea to hold our dope boys accountable and make them pour that money back into the community. I feel the same way as like when you get fined for driving or whatever, it goes back to the police. I feel like when every time you pick them up, that fine needs to go back to a community program. And that wraps up what I'm saying. Neighborhoods got to get back to being communities. We need to take our neighborhoods back and make it a community again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. LaRon Barnes.
You know it.
Last words, final thoughts.
I'll say, look, I believe that, again, charity starts at home. Point blank, period. And change starts at home. Point blank, period. Get out to this event. If you truly believe that we are in a mental health crisis and you may be struggling with mental health, your child is struggling, because if you're struggling with mental health, most likely you pass down trauma. It's just automatic. You hang around trauma, you become traumatized. So get there. Be there this Saturday. It's very important. We have to come up with solutions. This is about acting. What solution can you bring? That's what it's about. We talked about a few of them. You heard Big Up talked about his solution as far as when it comes to the community, putting money back in the community to build it back up. And even when it comes to building relationships with communication skills, when it comes to connecting with parents and children. Those are just ideas that we can build programs off of, but we need you there, because you have something to say. So show up this Saturday, bright and early, and let's make a change in our city.
Yes. And my final thought is exactly what Amber Lucretia said. I wish we could stop creating plans and start producing action.
Mm-hmm.
That's it right there. We have an opportunity to produce action Saturday morning, 10 a.m. We want to see you there. The Mohart Center, 3200 Wayne. Register online. It's 100% free. We don't want your money. We want your voice. We want you to be in the building. And so we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Make sure that you have this conversation in your home. Let this be a conversation starter. It was a great show, great dialogue, as always. And so we'll be back again next Monday. We don't stop. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Peace.